Speaking of moments, you've been, as you mentioned, your career with the Fever. First six, though, were tough, obviously. They weren't as easy. You guys have made the playoffs the last two. What's been the big turnaround? How have you viewed the way the team has grown organically?
After months of generic interviews, polished press lines, and an endless cycle of media chatter where insiders twisted narratives to fit their own agendas, the veteran heartbeat of the Indiana Fever finally broke through the noise and gave fans exactly what they had been waiting for, a moment of raw, unfiltered truth. This wasn't just another answer to another question, it was a truth bomb so powerful that the entire WNBA is still buzzing, scrambling to interpret its meaning and reckon with its weight. Every word she chose landed with purpose, every tone she used was deliberate, and in that single defining moment, Mitchell reminded the world that leadership isn't measured by who talks the loudest, but by who speaks with conviction. What she delivered wasn't casual commentary or offhand opinion, it was a statement so bold, so charged with meaning, that it could very well change the way we talk about Caitlin Clark, redefine how the Fever are perceived, and even shift the broader conversation surrounding the WNBA's future itself.
And then you bring in Caitlin, who changed the world, changed the dynamic of basketball. And as a friend and as a player, you grow to appreciate her because, certain doors have opened because she's come to the Fever, and you have to respect that. And I love the teammate and person in her because she's accepted it with so much grace and even welcomed us with open arms to, make this thing happen. So I think it just took a lot of big pieces to make it.
The real debate now isn't just about what Mitchell said, it's about what she truly meant. Was she simply offering admiration for her teammate? Was this the subtle spark of a brewing professional rivalry? Or was it something far more significant, a brilliantly calculated, brutally honest, and refreshingly authentic evaluation that raised the bar for what honesty in pro sports can look like? That's the question fans are wrestling with today. But before we dissect every layer of her words, it's worth stepping back to consider the larger picture. Has Caitlin Clark not only elevated women's basketball but also shifted the global perception of the sport in ways we've never seen before? Are we witnessing the defining turning point of modern sports history, the moment where Clark becomes the needle that moves everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this conversation is only just beginning.
You've changed the world in so many ways. You've done it with so much grace. And I'm so happy to take the floor with you, to be a part of this experience. I want to tell you to give yourself some grace, kid. You've done a lot of things that not a lot of people can do. And from me to you, I'm always going to be a fan. I'm always going to be in your corner. I'm always going to be in your backcourt.
That's the magnitude of the question Mitchell's comments dragged straight into the spotlight, and it's exactly why her voice carries so much weight. Because let's be honest, mention the Indiana Fever anywhere, in any context, and you already know what's coming next, the Caitlin Clark question. It's become as predictable as the sunrise. It doesn't matter if the topic is defensive schemes, favorite pregame meals, or even the weather, the conversation inevitably circles back to Clark. She is the gravitational pull of Indiana basketball, the storyline that refuses to let go. But this time, the responsibility of addressing it didn't fall on a bench player or a rookie finding her footing. It landed squarely on Kelsey Mitchell, the veteran, the heartbeat, the one voice powerful enough to frame the conversation differently.
But you've been with Indiana through the thick and thin. You've been with them since, we was talking, we about to go get our rhythm on Indiana. You've been there, you stuck through, and to now be in the semifinals. What does that feel like? And for people watching, girls, boys, if they athletes, not athletes, what does it feel like to sit through something and now see it come into full?
And that reality matters more than most people truly grasp. Kelsey Mitchell isn't just another name on the Fever's roster, she's the franchise's survivor. For years, she was the lone flicker of light in an arena consumed by darkness, dragging Indiana through stretches of basketball so hopeless they felt unwatchable. This is the same Mitchell who carried a team that managed just 5 wins in an entire season, who endured a relentless carousel of coaches, 5 in 8 years, while opponents circled Indiana on the schedule as an automatic breather, a night to inflate their stats and rest their starters. She's the one who stood in front of microphones after yet another 24-point blowout, forced to deliver the polite cliches about learning experiences and building blocks when she knew there was nothing to build on. Night after night, she shouldered the losses, the scrutiny, and the weight of keeping a broken franchise alive. That wasn't just basketball for Mitchell, it was survival, a constant battle of pushing a boulder uphill while the world looked away.
You guys have made the playoffs the last two. What's been the big turnaround? How have you viewed the way the team has grown organically?
Oh man, I think a big shout out to the organization taking time to rebuild. I think our draft picks ended up coming big. Lexi Hall was a big draft pick, and then you get Kaylin, and then you get AB. And so you culminate that together with, my experience and having to, go through a couple things before they got there. I think it was just like a match made in heaven, really, because I was, still at a young age to really, vibe and get to know these players for who they were. And then you bring in Kaylin, who changed the world, changed the dynamic of basketball. And as a friend and as a player, you gotta appreciate her because, certain doors have opened because she's come to the team.
So when Kelsey Mitchell finally speaks on Caitlin Clark, it carries a gravity far beyond the usual press room chatter. This isn't a hollow, she's great, she helps the team kind of soundbite, not from Mitchell. She's not wired for empty PR fluff. What she delivered was raw, authentic, and forged in the fire of years spent surviving the league's basement. And in doing so, she validated what everyone has been watching with their own eyes but few have dared to articulate out loud. Caitlin Clark hasn't just changed the Fever, she's transformed the entire basketball ecosystem. Mitchell's exact words landed with the force of a tectonic shift. Clark has changed the world, changed the dynamic of basketball itself. Let that sink in. That's not a throwaway compliment. That's a seismic admission from the one player who had every reason to feel bitterness, every reason to protect her own legacy. Instead, the cornerstone of the Fever, the woman who clawed through irrelevance and endured endless nights of pain, looked into the camera and essentially said, "Without Caitlin, none of this happens." Not the sellouts. Not the primetime slots. Not the international headlines. None of it.
Now, you were an MVP finalist this year with our own Chiney Ogwumike even saying that you had the best season of any guard this year in the league. What has it been like to get that kind of recognition and get your flowers?
Oh, I appreciate it. I've been through a lot throughout the course of my career with Indiana Fever. It's been like my longest, ever. So it's for me, it's a humbling experience to kind of see myself make waves from where it started to where it is now. And just kind of respect the game, lean on the game as far as creating bonds and friendships. And now you get to see us do that now.
So when Mitchell finally opens up about Caitlin Clark, instantly it isn't just lip service. This isn't the generic "she's great, she helps the team" throwaway line that players feed to reporters. Mitchell doesn't deal in hollow praise or polished PR. What she delivered was raw, unfiltered, and sharpened by years of surviving in the shadows of irrelevance. And in that honesty, she validated what the world has been witnessing but most have been too cautious to say outright. Caitlin Clark hasn't just changed the Fever, she's redefined the entire basketball ecosystem. Mitchell's words landed like a tectonic shift across the sport. Clark has changed the world, changed the dynamic of basketball itself. Think about that. That's not flattery. That's not a headline grab. That's a seismic admission from the one player who had every reason to be resentful. Instead, the cornerstone of the Fever, the woman who carried the franchise through years of pain and irrelevance, looked straight into the camera and essentially declared, "Without Caitlin, none of this happens." Not the sellouts. Not the primetime slots. Not the international coverage. None of it.
And it's an unbelievable experience. It's a moment that I don't want to, take for granted. I want to cherish it as much as I possibly can. Like I said, I want to use this moment to as a moment to not grow. And so hopefully the mental preparation that I've been through and the things I've been through can kind of help me get through these moments. And then just, loving basketball for what it is and just, loving the game and having fun with it.
Kelsey Mitchell's reflections can't truly be measured without retracing the Fever's turbulent journey. When Lexi Hull first arrived, Indiana was still the league's punchline, a team drowning in irrelevance where wins were scarce, losses were routine, and the franchise was little more than background noise. Through it all, Mitchell was the one forced to plaster on a smile at press conferences, talking about building blocks while dragging a roster that barely scraped together 5 victories in an entire season. She had to dress up failure as progress, even as the weight of carrying a broken team fell squarely on her shoulders. Then came Aaliyah Boston, the post-powerhouse whose arrival felt like planting a flag in the wasteland. For the first time in years, there was a foundation, something tangible to believe in. And then, of course, came Caitlin Clark, a once-in-a-generation supernova whose presence didn't just impact Indiana but bent the entire sports media universe to her will. Overnight, the Fever went from forgotten to front page, from laughingstock to primetime. And through it all, Mitchell never sulked, never complained, never demanded out. She adapted, embraced the reinforcements, and recognized that this wasn't a threat to her role but the long-awaited change she had been fighting for. That's why her endorsement of Clark reverberates with such gravity, because Mitchell has lived both versions of this franchise, and she knows exactly which one sells tickets, shifts culture, and changes everything.
I love the teammate and person in her because she's accepted it with so much grace and even welcomed us with open arms to, make this thing happen. So I think it just took a lot of big pieces to make, what it is now.
What has it been like? Because certainly the world has been focused on her. But what has it been like as a teammate? Because sometimes people are stepping to her, but I feel like you guys are stepping right back in those situations.
I think it's just it's competitive nature, man. You know how it goes. It's just competitive nature. I think that we want to fight to, love on our team and be who we are and respect the game at the same time. So I think it's a lot of just competitive nature at the end.
But Mitchell's words reached far beyond the boundaries of professional respect. They carried something deeper, more personal, and perhaps even more powerful. She didn't just refer to Caitlin Clark as a teammate, she called her a friend. And that one word carries more weight than most outsiders will ever realize. In the cutthroat world of professional sports, where egos clash and rivalries quietly erode locker room chemistry, friend is not a throwaway label. It's a declaration of trust, of seamless integration, of something rare, healing. Mitchell made it clear that Clark didn't arrive simply to be the star attraction. She came to foster an environment where everyone could grow, where success wasn't monopolized but shared. That distinction is critical. History across every league is littered with super teams that looked unstoppable on paper but collapsed under the pressure of too many egos and not enough cohesion. Clark has avoided that fate by refusing to demand the sole spotlight. Instead, she operates like the sun, radiating energy that allows the entire roster to shine brighter. And no one embodies that more than Mitchell herself. Since Clark's arrival, her profile has surged, her game has elevated, and her efficiency has reached new heights. She's delivering in playoff moments, finally gaining the recognition she always deserved but so rarely received. Without Clark, Mitchell might have remained one of the WNBA's best-kept secrets. With her, the nation is watching, and Mitchell doesn't just accept that reality, she embraces it, she respects it, and she's thriving because of it.
Prior to game one, I saw Caitlin post that she was fined $200 by the league for stepping on the court. So was there like a locker room pool for her there, or did she take care of that herself?
I'm pretty sure somebody took care of it for her. I love it because as much people don't know this about Caitlin, but she has an unbelievable funny sense of humor. And so I think the tweet was the tweet, but you just have to know CC to know that it's just nothing but love coming from that kid, and her energy and her effort to just kind of support our team is just her way of doing it.
One story Mitchell shared illustrates this bond better than any stat line or highlight reel: Caitlin Clark's infamous fine tweet. What the outside world pounced on as arrogance, immaturity, or even classlessness was, inside the Fever locker room, nothing more than comedy gold. When Clark cracked the joke, players laughed, embraced it, and saw it for what it really was, her sense of humor breaking through the heavy weight of expectations and constant scrutiny. Mitchell revealed that moment as proof of Clark's authenticity, a side the public rarely gets to see, and in doing so she drew a sharp line between perception and reality. Outsiders saw controversy. Teammates saw character. Mitchell's conclusion was blunt: relax, it's just Caitlin being Caitlin. And that's the mark of a healthy locker room. If there was resentment toward Clark, that tweet would have lit a firestorm of drama. Instead, it became another inside joke, another sign that chemistry is thriving around her, which leads to the most intimidating truth for the rest of the league: Indiana's emerging Fab Four. Mitchell, Clark, Boston, and Hull aren't just piecing together a playoff run, they're sketching the blueprint of a dynasty. And Mitchell's own words underscored her commitment: going so far as to suggest she'd take a pay cut to keep this core intact. In today's sports culture, where chasing the biggest payday is the unspoken rule, that kind of sacrifice is nothing short of revolutionary. It shows Mitchell isn't just thinking about her own career, she sees the bigger picture. She understands that Indiana has something historic brewing, something worth protecting at all costs. That's why her loyalty rings so loudly. Because Mitchell knows the Fever are no longer the WNBA doormat. They're the storm sweeping through it. With Clark's stardom, Boston's dominance in the post, Hull's grit, and Mitchell's lethal scoring, this team is building more than wins. They're building a culture, rewriting the hierarchy of the league, and transforming Indiana from a long-running punchline into a powerhouse.
Look, you guys have been plagued with injuries, including to Caitlin, but you have the best sideline in the league, I feel like, right now. What does it mean to get that support during the postseason from the crew?
Oh, man, it's unbelievable. And I think the best part about it is that we have vet experience when it comes to Sydney Carlson. She's a winner and she's a champion. And then you have people like Caitlin, who's a PG and can pass the ball. And so when I come on the sideline, I get feedback from some of the best players in the league. And so I don't take those moments for granted either, because I feel like it's a chance to see the game at a different route. And I get to, get to talk to them from a level of just them having confidence in me to make plays. So I love it. It's a good experience to have.
And yes, cynics may roll their eyes at the notion that friendship could be the foundation of a championship run, but the results leave little room for doubt. Mitchell believes in it. Clark fuels it. Boston anchors it. Hull embodies it. Together, they've dragged a franchise once synonymous with futility into the spotlight as must-see TV. The Fever aren't quietly hoping for respect anymore, they're demanding it and proving every night that they deserve it. That's why Mitchell's comments weren't just casual praise, they were a manifesto. Her message was unmistakable: Caitlin Clark has fundamentally altered the trajectory of women's basketball, and Kelsey Mitchell is all in on being part of that revolution. There was no bitterness in her voice, no hint of jealousy about the spotlight shifting. Instead, there was gratitude, motivation, and a rock-solid sense of partnership. And that's rare in sports. It's also exactly why Indiana feels different right now. The truth is, the broader WNBA should be worried, because while Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and veterans like Aya Wilson or Cheryl Swoops waste time downplaying Clark's impact or fueling unnecessary resentment, Indiana is quietly building something real, something sustainable, something fans can rally around not just for a season but for an entire generation. Mitchell has declared her allegiance, and it's not with the league's old guard. It's with the future, embodied by Caitlin Clark and a Fever squad ready to dominate. The bottom line is simple: Kelsey Mitchell didn't just endorse Caitlin Clark. She embraced her, validated her, and pledged to build with her. That isn't just respect. That's alliance. And in doing so, she's thrown down the gauntlet to the rest of the league: acknowledge what's happening in Indiana, or get left behind watching the Fever rewrite history. Because if Mitchell, Clark, Boston, and Hull remain united, the WNBA doesn't just have a contender to contend with. It has a problem. A dynasty in the making, and a warning shot fired directly at the old power structure. So what do you think of Mitchell and Clark's friendship? Is it the secret sauce behind Indiana's rise? Let us know down in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on your screen now, and we'll see you in the next one.